Welcome to Theology Brewers. So today we have a special edition of the Theology Brewers. It is not the promised debate though, and I am sorry.
I have an idea for that. I think we should strive to do it in January live.
January live? Oh, at G3.
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking.
Because since we asked Alan to host it, we can just do it in his basement.
Oh, that's true. He could do that. We could do a live debate in January. Let's plan on that. So January, folks, baptism debate coming to a YouTube channel near you. However, speaking of YouTube, today we're going to start a new segment or whatever you call them when you do themed sections. We're going to do what we're calling YouTube excursions. Okay, it's where we'll look up some videos on YouTube that are popular or trending in the field of religion and Christianity or whatever, theology, apologetics, and we'll do a video on it. Okay, keep them around the same time. Hopefully, we'll do some commentating. Again, we're kind of a broad show. We're not going overly deep, but things like just popular topics. We'll offer some commentary on. So this one in particular that we're going to look at today has 34 million views.
To my embarrassment, I really used to like this video.
Yeah,
before I knew better.
And it's been there since January 10th, 2012.
7 years. Yeah. I used to like this. I admit.
Jefferson Bethke.
Something like that. He's also written like a book on parenting or marriage or something.
So I'll just say straight up right now, I know nothing about this guy. I'm not going to be commenting on him as a person. I don't care. I mean, I care. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm totally willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And in fact, in this video, I get what he's going for. And I think that is good. But so many of you probably are, if you watch these things at all, probably know the video, and I've seen it shared before. But it's called "Why I Hate Religion But Love Jesus," and it's a spoken word, which I always thought was code for someone who can't sing or rap.
It's poetry. I've always liked spoken word because it's poems put to a little bit of a backdrop music.
Yeah,
and
it's nothing new actually. It's as old as time. Spoken words are not a modern invention by any means. I mean, it's really just, dramatic recitation. So, which, we've got plays and stuff from the time of the Greeks, at least written down. So
it's an art form.
Yeah. So
we should get into it.
Yeah, we're gonna jump right into this. It's only 4 minutes long. Hopefully, it won't take us more than twice that to get through it. Yeah.
Right. Everyone who knows us
if it takes us longer than 15 minutes to do a 4-minute video, we're talking too much.
Which we've both been accused of doing many times before. So
yeah, it's true. So why don't we go ahead and play this? Now you have to bear with us too if this doesn't come out perfect, because we're actually kind of rednecking this setup. The
technology did not work the way it was supposed to.
Right, the setup and everything we're using is we're rigging this, so hopefully this works post production. But anyway, all right, let's give it a play here in a second. And all right,
we're gonna stop it here in like 2 seconds because I already know my first objection.
You can't criticize though.
That right there. Stop it. Stop it. Jesus greater than religion. Here's the foundational.
This is the whole video. This is the whole video. You're gonna.
It's a false dichotomy. I just want to start from the beginning. It's a false dichotomy.
Well, then we don't have to bother commenting on the rest of the video because that's the whole point.
We do though, because we have to address the specific thing. But the whole premise, there, I said it. So we can re-go.
Well, yeah. Continue.
Okay.
We'll get why that's a false dichotomy.
Yeah.
Okay.
if I told you Jesus came to abolish religion?
Where is that?
What if I told you voting Republican really wasn't his mission? What if I told you Republican doesn't automatically mean Christian, and just because you call some people blind doesn't automatically give you vision? I mean, if religion is so great, why has it started so many wars?
There with the so many wars. Like, okay, so first off, what if I told you Jesus came to abolish religion?
You're wrong.
I would say, well, tell me why. And so that's what he does, right? And that's what he's going to do. So we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt with this question and say, what if I told you Jesus came to abolish religion? Okay, I'm interested to hear why you think that, because I would disagree. What if I told you, I don't understand where he's going with this, or why this doesn't fit everything else. To just like briefly start off with this whole Republican Democrat, well, he doesn't even mention Democrat thing. Like, I understand that in America there's a evangelical Christian politic like thing. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
I think part of it is the Bible Belt is very, like the South, it's very Republican. And I don't know where he's located. He could be located down there, so maybe he has to deal with some of that. The reality of the situation is technically he's not wrong. Because sure, Jesus wasn't about trying to get, he wasn't politically affiliated whatsoever. And voting Republican, there are a bunch of horrible people in the Republican Party. Sure, again.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's not, it seems like a straw man to start with. Like, I don't know anyone who really would ever say that.
It's just, it has nothing to do with his main point.
Right.
It has nothing to do with religion or Jesus in the sense of the two sections. He throws in a third category of politics. But again, right. I get there's a cultural Christianity to,
And yeah, the Republican Party is the religious party, so maybe. But I want to comment on the wars thing, because that's just, so many wars. That's an argument you use all the time. The problem is the Encyclopedia of Wars has historically demonstrated that they are responsible for less than 7% of the world's conflicts throughout all of history. That's not all that many compared to every.
Where's that stat from?
The Encyclopedia of Wars.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, there's one thing we will not do on this show is we will not cite empty stats.
That is from the Encyclopedia of Wars. We can link it, whatever. I saved that because that's something people always throw at.
Yeah, especially atheists too. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, Christianity is responsible. But another response to that is, people doing something in the name of a religious group is not the same thing as that religion doing it, if that makes sense. So, for example, a lot of Muslims would totally disavow the radical ISIS jihadists. Mm-hmm. They would disavow them as truly Islamic. You can debate that if you want. That's not my point. My point is, like, just because somebody's doing something under the banner of something, just because you claim to be something doesn't mean you're that, right?
Right.
So yeah, there haven't been a lot of wars, comparably speaking, in the name of religion. There have been some. I don't deny that.
And atrocities, Spanish Inquisition. You have all these things. They've happened.
And let's talk about the wars that weren't religiously based either. Like, this is not a religious problem. This is a sin problem.
Exactly. So
moving on here.
Why does it build huge churches but fails to feed the poor? Tell single moms God doesn't love them if they've ever had a divorce.
There. Okay, yeah, we're going to take forever to get through this. So why does it build huge churches but fails to feed the poor? Let me ask you a question. Most hospitals, no, I'm not going to ask you a question. I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah, just tell.
Although this is going to be an empty stat. I'm sorry. It's common knowledge.
I'm trying to find a percentage for you.
But it's just common knowledge. Most churches, hospitals, orphanages, shelters, soup kitchens those are typically religiously run, whether it be Catholic or Orthodox or Protestant. Those are typically religiously run institutions. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So they build big churches and they build orphanages and hospitals and shelters. And okay, has anybody ever heard of the Salvation Army? That was a religiously based.
So just off.
It's not just a thrift store, by the way. The Salvation Armies have shelters for homeless people, and
and they feed. Yeah, they feed people, right. And so just from the very top, and this is from the ACLU, by the way. Roughly, it's estimated that 30 to 37% of hospitals in the U.S. are religiously affiliated hospitals.
At least.
Yeah, and that's only in the U.S.
Yeah. 37% is a little lower than I would have expected, to be honest, but
they've probably the state has probably, well, we've got in Utah, we've put in like 4 new healthcare centers in the last 10 years. So they've been building, like they build, yeah, they build a lot of new ones. So
which one, Mormons or the state?
The state, so non-Mormon affiliated ones.
Gotcha. All right, let's move on. But that's just a ridiculous claim. Religion has done massive amounts of good for society and the world.
Right.
Absurd claim. Continue.
Hi. So we need to fix the statistic. I cited the wrong statistic. That was for hospital admissions. So 37% of hospital admissions in the United States are to religiously affiliated hospitals. Trying to find the exact number of faith-based religious hospitals, whatever, it was actually much more difficult. And now I've used up my free access to the statistic. So I've included the link down below right there. That link right there is where you can find the statistic. There are 726 faith-based hospitals in the United States according to the year 2016 statistics we have. I couldn't find anything from more recent. But there was a sharp increase from the year 2015 to 2016. So that's worth noting. However, of the 6,200 hospitals in the United States, 600 of them are Catholic and 1,600 healthcare facilities. This is according to the Catholic Health Association in the United States. In total, there are almost 3,000 hospitals in the United States that are non-government and non-profit organizations. Now, I wanted to show you real quick that just first 3 that I could find. These are 3 of the larger ones that are not Catholic, because the Catholics do have the monopoly on size here. They are the largest faith-based hospital and healthcare organization in the United States. The United Methodists are also rather large, but anyway, so these are just a couple others. Trinity Health. There are 44, I guess I could, do a circle, 44 hospitals and 379 outpatient clinics and facilities and other things, numerous long-term healthcare facilities, home health and hospice programs. So you see, the statistic is actually much more complicated than just hospitals. Now, keep in mind, this is just healthcare. This isn't even food service stuff like food banks and whatnot. Then you have the Adventist healthcare system. It's the largest nonprofit Protestant healthcare provider in the nation, and it supports 37 hospitals and one of the other types of facilities in 12 states. So there's that. Providence, again, another faith-based. Providence Health and Services, based in Seattle, nonprofit healthcare system with facilities in 5 states. It includes 26 hospitals, as well as non-acute facilities, physician clinics, liberal arts university, and high school. And in 2008, they provided $500 million in community benefit programs. So this statistic is very complicated, and it would take a lot more research, but this should at least just give you a general idea. In the healthcare industry, Christians, or at least religiously affiliated people, are very much so active in providing for people in need. And this is just healthcare. So what he said is still bunk. And we have, I think, sufficiently debunked it in the short amount of time we have here. So back to the video.
But in the Old Testament, God actually calls religious people whores. Religion might preach grace, but another thing they practice, tend to ridicule God's people. They did it to John the Baptist. They can't fix their problems, and so they just mask it, not realizing.
Okay, hold on, because he actually made a point that I agreed with. they hold on, let me find the exact words so I don't misquote it. They can't fix their problems, so they try to mask it. I agree with that. People in broad evangelicalism, Christians all around the world, they do try and act like they have it all together. And when we go to church, we're not a bunch of broken people. We're a bunch of, these really happy, good people who have it all together. So on that point, I don't disagree. But who tells single moms that they're horrible people because they've been divorced?
Yeah. Have you seen the Jesus Wants the Rose video?
I have.
Link that.
Yeah. It's cool.
The point's actually perfectly summed up, where Matt Chandler does call out a pastor for doing that. But at the same time, he clearly emphasizes what Christianity has taught the point of the gospel to be in that Jesus Wants the Rose video. And it speaks to that almost exactly. So
I would not say that the vast majority of Christians take that perspective of you've been divorced and so therefore you're a leper.
Yeah,
No.
Some, sure. But again, he's broad stroking here. And there's the thing called logical fallacies where hasty generalizations and stuff get you into trouble. Okay, continuing on.
See, the problem with religion is it never gets to the core. It's just behavior modification, like a long list of chores. Like, let's dress up the outside, make it look nice and neat. But it's funny, that's what they used to do to mummies while the corpse rots underneath. Now, I ain't judging, I'm just saying, quit putting on a fake look. Because there's a problem if people only know that you're a Christian by your Facebook. I mean, in every other aspect of life, you know that logic's unworthy. It's like saying you play for the Lakers just because you bought a jersey. See, this was me too, but no one's seen it.
Yeah.
So he isn't necessarily wrong on a lot of these things, but the problem is he's not differentiating he's not making the differentiation the Bible makes on religion.
He's not defining his term, is what he's not doing.
Yes.
Exactly. And the whole main problem with this video is he's confusing legalism for religion.
Right.
Colloquially, I understand why he's doing that, because the term religion has become a term synonymous with legalism.
Right.
A self-made righteousness. He's going to go on here in a little bit to talk about Jesus rebuking the religious leaders and stuff. I'll comment more when we get to there. However, we need to make sure that when we buy that term back, we redeem that term religion because it's good and it's important, and do exactly what he's not doing. And we need to differentiate between what legalism is, where you do dress yourself up, right? And you try to play a part.
You add all of the rules.
Right. But they're not sincere things. You're just doing them to do them. And that is a problem. So this is where I do say that I think the thrust of this video, what he was trying, the motivation behind doing this video, I think is good and legitimate. However, I think he's done it in a not helpful or good way, because you're literally throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
And he is right though on the if people only know you're a Christian by that section on Facebook, yeah, that's a problem. That's not the life lived as a Christian, right? So I agree with that.
On that note, though, I would also point out there's a quote from John Piper that says it's like one of the redeeming values of social media is that in eternity we're going to be able to see, or it's going to leave everyone without an excuse for saying I didn't have enough time to do godly things, whatever.
Oh yeah.
And so at least if you're putting Christian things on Facebook, that's a good thing. We're not knocking that. But that's not the goal of your Christian walk.
Yeah,
it's not the end of it there. It goes more than past the keyboard and computer screen.
Yeah, at the risk of being vulgar, God's going to have the ultimate screen time metric for you. Here's the time you spent on social media and you didn't have time to read your Bible,
right?
Kind of thing. So I think here this next section, and we'll be able to play through it here, he's going to talk about him personally and what he was doing. Great. I appreciate the confession, but that's not a religion problem.
Right.
That's your problem. We all have it, but that was your sin, not the fault of religion, right? That's where he's going.
Now,
So, but I see I played this game too. No one seemed to be on to me.
Right.
You played the facade, but that's not religion's fault.
Right. Part of it could be, and because we don't know his background, it could be the church he was raised in. Maybe this church was a horrible legalistic church. I don't know. And maybe that's where his personal experience is coming from.
But even still, what he's saying here is that he knew right and wrong, and yet he just pretended to do right himself, but do his own stuff anyway. Even though he knew what he should be doing, he only did it as a fake so he could do his other stuff behind the scenes. That's again not religion's fault.
Okay, we're a minute and a half in, and only 20 minutes on the video, so we can do this.
Well, I just prefaced this whole section. We don't need to comment on.
Okay. That's right. So we'll get through that section.
Yeah, exactly.
Seem to be on to me, acting like a church kid while addicted to pornography.
I would note on the pornography issue, though, I believe the statistic, and this is empty, but I'll look it up and cite it for you in the show notes. I believe 80% of men and 60% of women in the church
but now that I know Jesus,
statistically were
in my weakness.
on pornography
because
at some
if
point.
grace is water,
That's pretty
then the church should be an ocean. It's not a museum for good people. It's a hospital for the broken.
I like calling it a hospital for the broken.
I don't have to hide my sin. Because it doesn't depend on me, it depends on him.
Good way to put it.
See, because when I was God's enemy, and certainly not a fan, he looked down and said, I want that man. Which is why Jesus hated religion, and for it he called them fools. Don't you see so much better than just following some rules?
So here,
now, let me
pause. And I'm not sure we're synced up anymore, but don't you see he's so much better than just following some rules? So at 2:19 into this video, he says, don't you see he's so much better than just following some rules? This is true. However, this evangelical understanding of law and gospel distinction is unhealthy at best. We are saved by the grace of God. We don't believe that our works are meritorious and earn us salvation in any way. However, read Psalm 119. Every single verse, the longest chapter in the Bible, every single verse, bar none, mentions how wonderful, precious, beautiful God's commandments, rules, precepts, law, like every single synonym you can come up with for God's rules. He uses rules even too. David talks about how glorious and beautiful they are. And this is a problem that we have, is we don't understand, or we, for some reason, we tend towards thinking legalistically. Every command God has ever given is a blessing. It's his way of loving us, is saying, listen, I love you and I care about you. So here's what you should and shouldn't do, because this is what's best for you. I made you, I know. So,
just for an example, if you don't believe him, Psalm 119:1, blessed are those whose ways blameless, who walk in the law of the Lord. Verse 6 says, then I shall not be put to shame, having my eyes fixed on all your commandments. I will praise you with an upright heart when I learn your righteous rules. I will keep your statutes. Do not utterly forsake me.
Every verse, every verse of Psalm 119.
That's literally the theme of the longest chapter in the Bible.
Right. So, and by the way, what did God give Moses at the top of the mountain? The 10 Commandments, a list of do's.
Not suggestions. Not suggestions.
Right. But there's a reason. It's not because God's an evil dictator saying, do this, don't do this, don't do it. It's, I love you. Here's how to prosper. God is giving us everything for life and godliness, correct? So what we understand about God's rules is how we become more like him. And they are themselves things of grace to us. So I understand that, again, he's trying to make legalism, which is a self-righteousness by rule following. He's trying to speak against that, but that's not, unfortunately, again, everybody just kind of lumps it together.
Right.
So
nuance is very important in defining.
Oh yeah,
terms.
Absolutely. It has to be. Moving on.
Clarify. I love the church, I love the Bible, and yes, I believe in sin. But if Jesus came to your church, would they actually let him in? See, remember, he was called a glutton and a drunkard by religious men. But the Son of God never supports self-righteousness, not now, not then. Now back to the point.
He's right there.
To mention,
he is. We don't have to pause it. We've
on
experienced
opposite spectrums. See,
Christians
one's the work
do have
of
an
God,
issue with
but one's a
allowing
man-made invention. See, one is the
Christian
cure,
liberty,
but the other's the infection.
We do need to pause, actually.
See, because religion.
So on the drunkard portion of it, because he's right, and there are plenty of Christians today who believe that alcohol at all, if you touch it, you are sinning.
Well, that's not where I was going with that. That's the whole.
Well, I'm saying, like, there are Christians today who would still have that legalism that he does talk about in that scenario. So you can go somewhere else with that, but that was my point.
Yeah, I mean, we can have an episode on that sometime. The point isn't that so much. The point is that it was the religious people that were saying these things, that Jesus was a drunkard and a glutton. It wasn't about the drinking. It was about being a drunkard. Jews drank wine all the time, so it wasn't about alcohol. But again, he's going to keep making this non-distinction about religious leaders and rulers and the legalism that was in it. So, and this is where at 244 he talks about how Jesus and religion are on opposite spectrums. One is the work of God, one is man-made invention, and this is just not true. This is categorically wrong. God instituted religion. Okay.
Right.
Why do we know this? How do we know this? Jesus says, "I come to build my church," right? In Acts, he's starting the church. The church is not just a random collection of believers or random believers throughout. It does make the believers make up the church, but we've talked about this before. The church is an actual institution as well. Otherwise, Titus 1 doesn't make sense. 1 Peter 5 doesn't make sense. 1 Timothy, right? 1 and 2 Timothy both don't make sense when he talks about these are the offices for the church, right? God has also set up ways for us to worship him specifically. That's an institutional setup, and it's called liturgy. That is often associated with religion.
Right.
But every church has it, no matter what church you go to, even if it's the most spontaneous, like do whatever we want and feel like, that's your own version of religion and liturgy.
Right. It's like everyone has an order of service that literally is your liturgy.
Right. Now the question is, have you put thought into it, and does it line up with the Bible?
Right.
Or you're just making it up yourself because you think you can. But this is not true. And where do we get this? The word religion is used in the Bible in a positive way, right? Yeah. First James. James 1:27, right? And you'd think I would have had that pulled up because I knew we were going there.
Well, while he turns,
he says. What century?
Yeah. We're on digital. Who turns pages anymore? No. Religion definition, according to Merriam-Webster, is the service and worship of a god or the supernatural, or a personal set or institutionalized system of religious attitudes, beliefs, and practices. So literally by definition, Christianity is religion.
A system of beliefs, right? But what does the Bible say? Religion is this. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unstained from the world. That doesn't mean not living in the world, by the way. That doesn't mean secluding yourself. That means, in humility, recognizing that we do wrong things all the time too. But we as Christians know that God has forgiven us of those things, and that there is a way for that to be made right. And we want to share that with people. It's not goody two-shoes people, which is, again, I think part of the point he's trying to get to.
Right. Well, that's why I really liked when he called the church a hospital for the broken, because that's the thing is Jesus came not for the righteous man, but to call sinners to repentance. He came as a physician to heal the sick, not healthy.
So it shouldn't surprise you when you walk into a church and you see a bunch of hypocrites.
Right.
No kidding. The reason those people are in church is because they realize they need something beyond themselves, because they realize that they're sinners and they do wrong things all the time. And we need God.
Yeah.
We can't fix ourselves. We can continually try to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and just keep plugging along. And you know what? That'll get you only so far. But there comes a point, especially on the eternal scale, where nothing you do in this life is good enough to save you. And so you got to turn to the thing that God set up to do it, which, by the way, is religion. Right. Obviously, we think specifically the Christian religion. We would not.
Right. Because the stuff he's saying can apply to religion as a broad stroke, but without defining it, like if you're being specific, he's talking about Christianity or affiliated Christian churches, so Catholics. Right. This is what he's referring to. And even in that, you have to differentiate. Okay, just because a church has these things set up, has rules set up, well, like the Catholic Church and indulgences started the whole Reformation. These things happen, but that's not pure religion according to what he just read in James. So you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right. But legalism, again, I think is the thing he's actually trying to speak to. Anyway, from 244, we're moving on a bit quicker.
We don't even have to comment on the next section because we just talked about it.
Yeah.
The other's the infection. See, because religion says do. Jesus
every time you use the
done.
Word religion, just
religion says slave. Jesus says son. Religion puts you in bondage, while Jesus sets
Jesus
you
uses
free.
religion too.
Religion makes you blind,
free,
but Jesus makes you see.
And
that's why religion and Jesus are two different clans. Religion is man searching for God.
Clans.
Christianity is God searching for man.
Right.
Okay, that though,
salvation is freely mine, and forgiveness is my
pause.
own.
Because he's about to go into the gospel, which is good, but he's still separating the gospel from religion, and that's not accurate. Like, they're not two separate things like he's saying they are. Because religion is man searching for God, but Christianity is God searching for man. That's not necessarily true.
Right.
Like, false religion, yes, it's all about what man can do to make himself better, or, enlightenment, depending on what religion you're going with. But and he's right to contrast that with the gospel, which is that God condescended through Christ for us. So that contrast is accurate, but only if you define religion properly.
Right. And I mean, we would agree too that there are religions that are man-made.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Islam, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses,
Buddhism, Hinduism.
Right. We would agree that these are man-made, or at least demonically inspired in some way, right? But you can't forget, we almost did this video instead, which we'll probably do. There's a TED Talk on the 5 religions of the world. Religions. He left number 6 out, which is atheism. Mm-hmm. That is itself a religion. You can fight me on that all you want, but it is a very specific, defined set of beliefs, even though it has a broad spectrum. And it carries with it its own institutions and sacraments. So
it's under definition 4, which is a cause, principle, or system of beliefs held to with ardor and faith.
Right, exactly. And it is a faith position.
Yep.
Even if it's an anti-faith position, it's still a position of faith. Anyway,
not based on my merits,
not based on my efforts, but Christ's obedience alone.
Because he took the crown of thorns and the blood dripped down his face. He took what we all deserved.
We let it play through the end.
And while being murdered, he yelled, "Father, forgive them. They know not what they do." Because when he was dangling on that cross, he was thinking of you. And he absorbed all your sin, and he buried it in the tomb, which is why I'm kneeling at the cross saying, "Come on, there's room." So for religion, no, I hate it. In fact, I literally resent it, because when Jesus said, "It is finished," I believe he meant it.
Okay.
to the one who does not work, but believes in him who justifies the Father. Yeah.
Right. Works-based religion. No evangelical, no Orthodox Christian is going to argue. Works-based religion is not okay. Because of what he just explained, Christ taking out.
Well, define that even. Define that. Victorious salvation is not okay. You have to have works.
Right. Works-based salvation, as in you can earn your salvation.
That is works-based religion.
Right. That's not the gospel. That's not biblical. But it's really hard to hate the institution that Christ himself set up on this earth.
Well, that's not fair.
It's not, because he said he loves the church, but the church is the symbol of
what people think of the church in modern American evangelicalism too is not healthy.
No, but that's and
totally throw out the institutional element of it, and that's a problem.
Right, and see, this is a symptom of a deeper problem that we see in broad evangelicalism is they don't like institutionalized church. If your church looks like a church, if you have like a more what you would call a higher church liturgy, that's not good. We need to back up, and we need to just have coffee and donuts and people in skinny jeans and this have a concert, and that's where it leads to the church trying to distance itself as far as it can from what historically organized Christian churches have looked like.
Right. It needs to be spontaneous for sincerity is the claim, essentially. Right. And that's just nowhere in the Bible at all. That is not given to us that way in Scripture. In fact, God is very clear about having organized stuff. You know, look at the Old Testament, and I know you go, well, we're not under the Old Testament. Listen, God was incredibly detailed and specific in how he wanted things to be, right? Now, part of that was to show us our ineptitude and our inability to earn our own way to him, right? Without grace and God's work on the cross and his resurrection, it's impossible for us to come to him. That was part of the purpose of that. At the same time, God is showing a bigger picture. So yes, now we are in the new covenant. We are, a lot of those types and shadows of that those ceremonies pointed to are fulfilled in Christ. But what did Christ say? Or what did Paul say that Christ came not to do? He didn't come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it.
And that's where, read the book of Hebrews.
And listen, Paul, in Hebrews and Galatians are the perfect examples. You would think that Hebrews and Galatians would actually be arguing against us in this and supporting this video. No, Paul is saying those things that you think earn your salvation are not that. So do not turn to them. Again, it's the legalism behind it. When Jesus rebukes the religious leaders, what is he rebuking them for? Their hypocrisy. He's not rebuking them because of their religion.
Right.
He's rebuking them for their hypocrisy of their religion. And it is true that they added to the law their own things to be more righteous, right? So again, that's legalism, and that's what Jesus rebukes them for. But he doesn't rebuke them for being religious in the sense of that, like, God set up
right
Jewish religion. In Judaism.
Very much more specifically, you could argue, than the New Testament church as it was established. But he still gives you like examples of the New Testament is riddled with things that they did in worship for like why? Like the ordinances or sacraments, whatever you want to call them, baptism, Lord's Supper. And they met throughout, like you can, and the pastoral epistles, church order, how things are supposed to run in the church. Like, so he still gave us instructions. Yeah, he isn't striking people dead for doing it the wrong way today, like he did, but that doesn't mean it's not important.
Right.
Yeah.
God, and with God setting up certain practices, again, like baptism and the Lord's Supper, which a lot of people are think are optional, I guess, like baptism especially, like, oh, this is optional because they're trying to get so far away from religious things or works things that we start throwing out what God has said to do. That's a problem.
Repent, be baptized. Oh wait, that doesn't count.
Yeah, right. So anyway,
yeah. Well, and
YouTube.
It's fun. Yeah, it's funny to try and distance yourself from what you would call historic Christianity, because it's antiquated and it doesn't attract people. This kind of thing, because the book you're holding when you're preaching or giving a pep talk, whatever you want to call it, is over 2,000 years old. Well, not the book stitched together, but you get my point. Most of the documents in there, the majority of the books were written more than 2,000 years ago. That's kind of antiquated. Like that's not a valid reason to move into a more modern.
Well, that's why we throw out scriptures not taken seriously for the most part either. So there's that. Okay. But anyway, moving on. This has been our first YouTube excursion. We'd like to do more of these. So if there's videos you find that are interesting, send them to us. Send them to our email, which is theologybrewers42@gmail. Just on Twitter,
Facebook.
We'll actually start putting those links in the YouTube thing, because you can do that.
That's smart.
As much as we like technology, we're actually really bad at social media, because we're both very busy.
He's even busier now because seminary
in seminary, going full board. Last time we talked, I was just about to begin. I'm in it. Just real quick, a couple other segment type things we'd like to do. Seth's already done one. It's kind of like those video blogs. We'll probably do a few riding with, Seth or Samuel, just as one of us is we both do a lot of driving now. So just kind of blurb thoughts that we might post on the podcast. They won't go up on YouTube. Maybe. We'll see. We're going to try to develop this a bit more.
And see. Try and be active. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary. And if we do one more episode before then we have done 12 in 12 months, because we put our first episode up on October 31st of last year.
Yeah, but this is episode number 10 we're doing right now.
Yes, but
this doesn't count as an episode number. This is a YouTube excursion. This goes
right. If you just count like number of things done, because you count Les's interview and then that's 11.
Oh, I see.
So one more and we've done 12 in a year.
We did 12 because you did a video blog. So we would be at 12.
Yeah, but that was just me. Then that didn't go up on the
You're
podcast.
making your own exceptions.
No. I'm just talking like videos put up. It'll be 12 videos. Because Les's podcast didn't go up on ours. That was on Alan's. But yeah, so we'll have 12 projects done in a year that included both of us if we do one more before October 30th.
Still 13 because the video went on our channel.
Right. The video did, but not the podcast.
Anyway, we hope that you guys will share with your friends, give us likes, thumbs ups, and things like that. All those things that actually make this make it feel more worth our time. Yeah, when I turn on the thing and I see 5 views and all of them were probably me. Not that I watched the whole thing, but it's like, what did we talk about last time? Yeah. That's typically why I'm checking those videos. But check out the blog site too. We haven't written much lately, but I'll probably be posting more things on there, especially as I have to write papers and stuff and have thoughts. And I'm reading a lot of books right now. And lots of thoughts. Anyway, past that, thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.
Bye.